Hello guys, hope you're all doing well. My name is Pistachio and today will be my official review on the GWolves HSK Pro 4K. As some of you may have already seen, I did a full-length unboxing a couple months back and ever since then half mained this mouse to get a proper feel for a shape that's completely alien to me. The GWolves HSK is one tiny as mouse. It was made to be a fingertip only mouse, as you can tell by the design and the size. The experience in all this time has been different, but a pretty fun change to get used to. Now, before the HSK came into my hands, I was maining the Lamzo Atlantis and partially also the Starlight 12, which are significantly bigger than the HSK and also not my usual grip style, which was to play claw. Getting into the actual mouse though, I do have some experience already using a tiny lightweight fingertip mouse for a while, that being the custom 3D printed Zornkoenig M2K, which is posted up on Reddit by a different user, but I slightly remixed it to be a wider shape, have some thicker structures and less flexy click, and a bit of a stronger bass. Admittedly, it does look like the dog chewed it up, but it performs insanely with 8K Hz polling rate and a solid but pretty flexible soft cable. Still weighing at 15 grams, so I'm not complaining at all. But now, kind of comparing that to the HSK Pro 4K. First off, I had to get into what you experience on first glance, which is going to be the coating. The feel of the plastic is just smooth. It's good quality, it's a strong build, but lacks grip in my opinion. Nothing really too much to say about that. And now, getting into the main thing, which is the size. The HSK has dimensions of 7.4 centimeters by 5.6 centimeters. And to just compare that to my hand size, which is 21.5 by 11 centimeters, is insanely tiny. But for a small handed person, having a 15.5 centimeter by 7.5 centimeter hand size, it looks relatively normal. Then there's the height of the mouse, which is nearly 3 centimeters at the back hump, and it slightly slants down to the tip of the clicks, coming in at roughly 1 centimeter. The base and the sides have a really solid build. See, no matter how hard I squeeze it, there is no creaking or flexing on the sides or the top, but of course the bottom would have some, but it's not like anybody will be squeezing it or really applying pressure to it in use. So that's honestly just something to kind of point out. And then it's the mouse buttons, which take up like 2/3 of the mouse itself. Seeing as it's a tiny fingertip focused mouse, so I'd assume that choice is to make for a lot of room for flexibility when it comes to different hand sizes and also changing up finger positions for kind of comfortability. And so we move on to the side buttons. It looks like two small beans placed at the back left of the mouse. They have a slight curve and don't protrude out of the shell as much. There's literally no wobble whatsoever nor any rattle, so genuine props to GWolves for the build. And the last exterior thing is going to be the mouse skates. It's a good quality and non-scratchy experience out of the box skate. It does have a slight bit of initial friction and the stopping power is pretty solid. And now obviously for what's inside of this mouse. Let's talk about the clicks first. The M1 and M2 have got zippy switches, so they have a nice snappy feel to them and great spammability. My personal preference of switches are either TTC Golds or zippy, so I've been really enjoying these plenty. Then the side buttons have the 1.0 black shell white dots, which is the first time I'm using them on a mouse, but they feel relatively the same but with less pre and post travel. Onto the sensor. Another mouse in 2023 with a PMW 3395 sensor, motion sync, and adjustable polling rate up to 4000 Hz. That's not even the best part. The stock dongle that comes with the mouse also acts as a 4K receiver as well. Like, wow, imagine including that with your mice. Besides that, though, I have encountered zero issues with the sensor on this mouse. Tracking and fast acting movements have been an absolute blast, especially when I was using the ceramic dots on my Loque pad. A weird design that I feel that needs to be pointed out is that the sensor is turned 90 degrees, which is the first time I've ever seen this in a mouse. Highly likely, well, this is more under assumption, it's because of how small the PCB is and to incorporate the scroll wheel and the power switch and the battery. Now, kind of getting into the cons. Regardless of, there's a few things I need to point out which I really have to nitpick. When it comes to the sizing of the HSK Pro, it might be a fair bit too small for people above 18 centimeters by 8 centimeters. Using this mouse for long periods of time can cause cramps and straining on my hands, which will force me to swap peripherals to something more kind of filling and comfortable on my grip. So, going back to the Starlight 12, for example, or the Lanzer Landless. Next up is the flexing. The whole mouse's body is strong as hell, but seeing as it's mainly just an M1 and M2 click on a tiny body, there will for sure be some flexing when only focusing on these main clicks. If you really put some force into it, it starts to bow and also creates a bit of post travel. But it's not like anyone will really death grip a mouse of this size. Moving on to the coating. It's nice and smooth, but because of that, it causes my grip to slip and needs constant readjustment. So I eventually felt obligated to use the included grip tape to compensate for that. Lastly, the one thing I personally just have a very big ick about, and that's the side button size and the placement. They genuinely just don't work for me, or just not at all, to be honest. The initial position of the side buttons made sense, but as I continued using them, it felt really awkward and messed up my flow so much. For me, I use these side buttons in Apex Legends a ton. Backside button is my utility, and front is always melee. But seeing how small and light the mouse is, if I do a full glide across the pad and need to lift my thumb up to press the side button, it releases the constant pressure that I apply across the mouse to control where you're going and what your goal is, and makes an inconsistent glide and may also cause a bit of twisting. I'd like to conclude this video by just commending GWolves for what they've created. The HSK Pro series really goes to show what can be achieved in the fingertip focused mouse space. If I had to put this against the M2K, I'd for sure still choose the HSK. It fully beats it in aspects of mobility, as the M2K is wide and the HSK is wireless. The shape where the M2K is a box compared to this lovely curve. It has side buttons, whereas the M2K doesn't, although I don't like them all that much. The silicone scroll wheel works like a dream, whereas the M2K has a kind of crappy plastic scroll. Last but not least, the price difference. Both of these mice are not cheap, but the M2K went for around 300 euros and the HSK Pro 4K goes for 180 US dollars. I'd love to see an updated version of the HSK Pro where the skates need to be dots, or at least include dots in the box rather. I would like to see a bit of a wider body on it, and for them to try tweaking the flexing and bowing on the main clicks. And last but not least, please tweak the side button size and position. This is just personal opinion, but I'd really appreciate that. Um, so for everyone out there looking to get an HSK Pro, I would personally recommend skipping the Pro 4K and rather going for the Pro Ace. It doesn't have 4K, but it does save you quite a bit of money, and the cost difference doesn't really hit right for my personal opinion. And of course, if you're looking to save even a bit more on that, feel free to use code PISS at the checkout for 10 US dollars off, or even another content creator of your preference. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope this video helps those who are interested.